Welcome to Even Tacos Fall Apart, a podcast and community providing a safe space to explore and grow in mental health and well-being. I'm MommaFoxFire, and today we are talking about living with anxiety and depression. Before we jump in, I want to mention that this interview was recorded back in 2020, so you'll hear references to events from that time period. This conversation remains incredibly relevant, though, because anxiety and depression don't follow timelines. They are ongoing realities for millions of people. Let's be honest about what we're dealing with here. Anxiety isn't just feeling nervous before a big presentation. Anxiety is your brain convincing you that every worst-case scenario is not only possible, but probable. It's checking your phone 17 times to make sure you didn't send that text to the wrong person. It's lying awake at 3 a.m. replaying a conversation from 6 months ago, wondering if you said something wrong. Depression isn't just having a bad day or feeling sad. Depression is the weight that makes getting out of bed feel like climbing Mount Everest. It's the voice that tells you everything you do is meaningless, that people would be better off without you. It's sleeping for 12 hours and still feeling exhausted, or lying there unable to sleep at all while your mind races through every failure and regret. The statistics are staggering. The Anxiety and Depression Association of America reports that anxiety disorders affect 40 million adults in the United States every year. Depression impacts over 17 million American adults annually. But here's what those numbers don't capture: the daily reality of living with these conditions, the trial and error of finding treatments that work, the frustration of well-meaning people telling you to just think positive or get over it. What makes this particularly challenging is how invisible these struggles can be. You might see someone who seems to have their life together. They're successful at work, they make everyone laugh, and you might never guess that they're fighting battles you can't see. Some of the funniest people I know are also some of the most depressed. The person checking in on everyone else might be the one who needs checking in on the most. The medical side of this is complicated too. We've made progress in understanding brain chemistry and developing medications, but we're still far from having all the answers. What works for one person might make another person worse. The side effects can sometimes be harder to manage than the original symptoms. And for many, the cost of treatment, therapy, medication, or both, puts help out of reach. Then there's the stigma, especially in certain parts of the country and certain communities where admitting you need help is seen as weakness. Men, in particular, face pressure to tough it out or man up, leading to higher suicide rates because they are told that seeking help is not masculine. Here's what I want you to know if you are struggling. Needing help does not make you weak, broken, or crazy. Your brain is an organ, just like your heart or your liver, and sometimes organs need medical attention. You wouldn't tell someone with diabetes to just think their way out of needing insulin. Today, you're going to hear from Rev Sven, someone who's been in the trenches of this fight since childhood. His story includes early medication, misdiagnoses, and pharmaceutical merry-go-round that many people experience, and ultimately finding his own path to managing his mental health. I want to be clear up front. Nothing we discuss today is medical advice, as it never is here. Both Sven and I are speaking from personal experience, not professional training. If you're struggling, please reach out to qualified mental health professionals. But sometimes, hearing from someone who's walked a similar path can be just as valuable as clinical information. Sven's story is raw and real. He doesn't sugarcoat the hard parts or pretend he has all the answers. What he does have is perspective from someone who's tried multiple approaches and found what works for him while being honest about what didn't work along the way. So grab your coffee, get comfortable, and let's have an honest conversation about living with anxiety and depression. Here's my interview with Rev Sven.
Hello. Okay, can you hit start captioning on your end again? It looks like it dropped off.
And
Yeah.
there
Hey, Eliza. Hey, Lit
go.
Mama. Hey, J. Carl. How are you? Codename Lucas. How are you doing? Hope everyone is doing lovely today.
Hi,
Yep,
friend.
that looks good. That looks good. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another Mental Health Monday stream. We have a wonderful guest here today with us. Rev Sven is here to talk about his lived experience with mental illness and mental health and all that comes with it. Hey, Maju, how are you? And as usual, we'll get through some bio intro stuff and then hop into the questions. If you happen to have any questions yourself, you can always pop them into the queue. And I am talking slowly because I didn't open the queue and I have to do that. And now I can talk at a normal speed because if you have any questions, you can type exclamation point, the letter Q, type your question in, and that'll put it into the queue. I do watch chat pretty closely. So if I miss it, putting into the queue will guarantee that I see it. Okay, so first of all, Sven, thank you so much for being here today. Appreciate you taking the time to join us here.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, I'm happy to be here. I'm always up for discussing mental health. It's something that I obviously I hold near and dear to my heart. So being able to discuss it is important to me.
Yep. Yeah, it's obviously one of the things that I'm passionate about as well, and I always appreciate finding someone else who's passionate about it and willing to talk. I know that some people have some reservations about talking about mental health. In some ways, rightly so, especially in the U.S., there's still quite the stigma. Some other countries have it better than we do, but we are where we are, and all we can do is work to improve that together. So, but you guys, this is Steven. He's a 30-year-old married father of 2. He got into streaming by accident, but quickly fell in love with it. And soon after, he discovered a mental health nonprofit known as Anime for Humanity, which we're going to talk about a little bit later. They are a nonprofit dedicated to physical mental health resources in the getting mental health resources into the hands of those who may need them, while also building a bridge to close the gaps in people and niche cultures such as anime, gaming, and cosplay, so let them know they're not alone in their struggles. He has struggled with anxiety and depression most of his life and was on prescription medication since in 6th grade. 4 years ago, he used a combination of therapy and alternative medicine to wean himself off of pills and be able to better cope during depressive episodes. He lives in rural Oklahoma, which is not too far from me, and I have family from lots of different areas of Oklahoma. And his gaming interests revolve around indie games. He is Rev Sven TV on Twitter. Here's his Twitter link, and then we'll do shout out here also. If I can type. There we go. Were you playing Little Misfortune?
I was, yeah. Again, that game's such a heartbreaker.
Oh my gosh. It's beautifully done too. Like just the way that they put everything together.
Absolutely. I love art in games. Like art in games outshines visually pleasing graphics. Like any day for me. Like you can make a game look super realistic. I'll take the artsy game over that anytime.
Oh yeah, for sure. Good. Yeah. Hey, Uncle Louie, how are you? Uncle Louie says hello.
Hi, Uncle Louie. Well, thank you for coming. I'm glad you're here.
So you say you got into streaming by accident. What led up to your first stream, and how long did it take you to realize this was something you were really passionate about and you really loved?
It's actually it's a pretty funny story. So I was approached by a really good friend named Chris, and he was a huge fan of Game Grumps, and I had never heard of it. I didn't know gaming on YouTube was a thing. I didn't know Twitch was a thing. And he comes to me and he says, "Hey, have you heard of these guys, Game Grumps?" I'm like, "No." And so he sends me a link, shows me, it's like the goofy commentary with video game stuff, kind of primarily with other things on the side. I was like, okay, yeah, I could already see where this is going. And he goes, "I think we should form a gaming duo." And I was like, all right, cool. And we called it Iron Road Gaming. Because he's actually from a town here in Oklahoma called Tallahena, which is an old Choctaw word for Iron Road because it was like a massive railroad depot.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, Iron Road kind of sounded cool. I was like, that's pretty cool sounding. And so we ended up becoming like a gaming duo on YouTube, primarily, super amateur stuff, like horrible audio, no webcam. We were trying to record audio through like the headset of the Xbox, and it was bad. But like I have this tendency to, if I end up taking something up as like a hobby of some kind, I bear down and just study everything I can about it.
Mm-hmm.
And that was when I was like, I saw Twitch and I was like, wait, you can do this live with like no video editing involved. And it's just like on our schedule, we just do the thing. And I brought that idea to him. And so we tried to do that. We tried to set it up to where we would stream live as Iron Road Gaming, as the duo. But it was, like, harder because we were streaming directly from the Xbox, but we wanted to capture both of our audio, so we set up a microphone, attached to a laptop and set up, like, a fake Xbox party, so the audio was even worse. It was so awful. The the jokes and the content and our chemistry was great, but man, was the quality bad. But it ended up, I he also is a father of 2. At the time, he was married as well, so we were kinda, cut from the same cloth, and what ends up happening is you have families and you both have full-time jobs, and, I mean, eventually, it became too difficult to be able to like, get our schedules lined up.
Hmm.
Um, and so I decided to start taking off on the YouTube side. We were gonna split the Iron Road Gaming deal where I was gonna be Iron Road Gaming on Twitch and he was gonna be Iron Road Gaming on YouTube, and then we would, like, do stuff together when we could. But this way, on our own time, we could focus on the things that we kind of wanted to do.
Right.
Um, and then, like, for it got to where he just couldn't anymore, and so in order for me not to just kinda take over the whole Iron Road Gaming thing, and then ended up creating some kinda confusion because he couldn't really be involved, um, I kinda branched out and changed my name. Originally, it was Reverend Sven, because I'm an ordained minister, and legally, I did kind of fill in at a church a couple of times, so I just kinda the name kinda stuck. Uh, and then I wanted to shorten it because I kinda fell away from religion altogether and wanted to kinda remove that religious connotation while maintaining the same idea. And then, yeah, I just kinda took off from there, and I really hammered down and started studying kinda how, how to make your stream look better and how, how to do different things, and at the time, I was really more focused in, like, multiplayer games like Paladins and Rocket League, and I was loving it. I mean, I was having a lot of fun, met a lot of amazing people, and,
Hmm.
made a lot of amazing friends, but I didn't feel like I was happy in what I do, like, or what I was doing at the time. Because while, gaming is fun and everything, there's just, like, some stuff that doesn't translate over to good content based on your personality, and I didn't like the idea of me getting toxic on Rocket League and stuff because that's not really
Right.
the kind of persona that or, like, personality that I have. And so that was when I found indie games. And when I found indie games because of Cuphead was the very first indie game I played on stream, and the art style, the challenge, the music, everything. I was like, you could feel like this wasn't like a team of a whole bunch of people that were contracted in to get this game done, and then after the game was done, they got laid off, stuff that happens in the gaming industry. This was a small team of super passionate people with a vision, and they executed it, and I fell in love with that idea along with the style of game. And ever since I've been into indie gaming, and it's been like I've made some connections at Tiny Build, and I've been talking to some other game devs and just really kind of getting the behind the scenes of how it works, and it's just made me fall more and more in love with it as time has gone on.
Yeah. That's a really cool thing to, and I think that one of the things that you were just talking about, the piece of you felt yourself kind of getting, a little bit on camera aggressive with some games and that not being who you want to present onto the world. I think that that's a challenge a lot of streamers face. Generally speaking, like there are definitely some ragey streamers out there who that is their persona. But I think that there comes a time if you're not looking to be one of those really ragey streamers that you have to decide if that's the kind of game that you want to play, if that's where it drives you to. But definitely sounds like you found something that's really cool, that you're really passionate about and that you can connect with on a lot of different levels. So that's awesome.
Oh yeah, yeah, and then it ended up becoming more like it wasn't even just so much about being that kind of like ragey person on camera. Like I never realized that that level of like being competitive in a game brought that kind of personality out of me
Hmm.
at all. I had never felt that kind of level of like the occasional toxicity and stuff. And like I ended up uninstalling Rocket League altogether because I was like, I don't like how I am playing this game.
Yeah.
It ended up becoming a problem. Now, when I start getting into those games with like friends, it becomes way easier to not become that toxic because it's just like at that point you're just having fun with friends and it's not about
Right.
being competitive. But yeah, I don't like being like that. So that was a big
Yeah.
driving force behind it.
Yeah, I can definitely, with Rocket League, all I do is drive around on the ceiling, essentially. I cannot figure out that game. I've tried with a controller, everything I have. And so I have a really close group of friends who play Rocket League. And every time they're like, listen, if y'all don't shape it up, we're going to get Mama to come play and then you'll be in for it.
Yeah, I'm that guy that like I turn off the ball cam. So I have like after a while, I won't even know where the ball is. I just like seek people out to blow them up just to be.
Oh, I like
I'm
that.
just like,
That's what I need to do.
yeah, just be that disruptor because it's actually funny because
Right.
sometimes that it does work because you get the other team kind of like flustered and scared to like they hear you coming and they'll like jump or something to get out of the way. And like if you have a good teammate, it opens up all kinds of doors for them.
Yeah. Yeah. That's probably what I should do instead of just winding up on the ceiling and trying to figure out where everything is. So Uncle Louis, the chatter points in here, you could do things like heist, you can do things like gamble, you can do things like boss fights. The boss fights are really fun too. Actually, we can start a boss fight. So just type exclamation point boss and you can join
Uncle
right
Louis
there.
is kind of new to Twitch. I met
Oh, are you?
through I met him through TikTok, and I think he's like relatively new to like how some of the streamer points and different things like that work.
Yeah, it's a little bit weird right now too because there are like channel points, and then there's these other I have chatter points and channel points. And the channel points you can do things with redemptions as well built into Twitch, but then outside of that, all of the little mini games and stuff are driven through something called Streamlabs Chatbot, and so that's where those chatter points come into play. Yeah, you're very new. No worries, no worries. You know what? We're here. We're here to help you through anything. And honestly, with you being new, probably you'll wind up teaching me something. Like, no lie. Before we go much further, can I get pick whatever your favorite heart emote is, and could I just get some hearts in the chat? I know that Maji's having a hard day today, and he's going through some stuff, and I just want to show him a little bit of love. So if you got any sort of heart emote that you want to use, Twitch has a standard one. Just throw it out there, whole bunch of them, and just let him know that we're here for him. Thank you guys very much. Appreciate that. Maju, big love to you. I know that you're having a hard day. So there you go. That's what I like to see right there. Yes. There you go. So you are also involved in a charity called Anime for Humanity, which was mentioned in your bio. Do you mind telling us a little bit more about that, who they are, kind of what they do, and how you got involved with them?
Yeah, absolutely. So Anime for Humanity is it's a mental health nonprofit designed to kind of be able to get those, like you said in the intro, get mental health resources physically in the hands of people who might need them. Things that allow people to find free or inexpensive mental health resources that specialize in certain areas. We've compiled a list of different kind of not I don't want to necessarily use the term like niche mental health organizations, but ones that kind of that kind of cater to a specific type of audience. Like like we've gathered resources for people like Stack Up, which a lot of cancer support organizations we kind of fall in line with just because of the kind of damage that going through something as serious as cancer can have on your mental health. But then we also have like resources for the Trans Lifeline and just all the different kinds of resources. We keep them all compiled in one place and get them in the hands of people who might need them. There's also some feel good items in these. There's like a whole kit that we put together, and we hand these things out at events for free. And another thing we try to do a lot is bridge gaps in communities, because our founder, he was part of a bunch of, he was going to anime meetings and anime clubs out there in California. And he noticed that while all of these people were here for the same thing, it seemed like people were having a hard time connecting. And a lot of that came from, the idea that people kind of get in these niche cultures, gaming, cosplay, anime, which you're seeing less of it now, but it's still there, that in certain areas, people get bullied for being part of that, like for being a nerd or a dork.
Right.
And it can do a damage, it can do damage to your self-esteem and to your mental health. It makes you not want to be able to reach out. You think somebody's always making fun of you. Somebody's going to pick on you. Well, this was designed to make sure people realize that it's not that way. That there are people that are here with you. You're not alone, that you have this stuff in common. And then it allows you to kind of be able to bridge that gap and give you somebody to relate to. Because one thing we truly believe in is the idea that step one to getting help is to have somebody to relate to not feel alone. Like that's step number one. And so that's on our online presence is designed for that while also still providing all the resources. Like if you go to the website that you shared in chat, animeforhumanity.org, there is a healing section. And if you go to healing, it has all those resources in one place. And then in person, we get those in your hands. That way it's like, hey, you get that personal connection. Like, hey, man, listen, we're here for you. We know what it's like. We've seen it, and we want to we want to be able to help. And so
Yeah.
that plays a huge role in it for us as well.
Yeah, and there's the link to that healing section of that as well. And this is something that is really cool and that I had no idea existed. So it's really neat learning about all these different things from different people. And that's one of the beautiful things about social media is that, yeah, it can be. We were just talking about TikTok and how much it can be a time suck on your day. And I had to uninstall it from my phone, but I love that it can connect people and you can really make these neat connections. Hey, Mage, how are you? Nice cat, by the way. Thank you so much. He's resting until he decides he needs more attention. So changing the subject just a tiny little bit. But do you have a serial killer or true crime story that fascinates you?
Actually, I do. So, serial killer culture has kind of become pretty relevant in American society today. Between TV shows and everything, and it's honestly, it realistically is part of our history.
Mm-hmm.
As a nation, or in world history. Honestly, look at Jack the
Yeah.
Ripper. But for me, one that stands out just because of one, the sheer creativity of it, and the things that it has inspired in, which it seems so weird, kind of romanticizing this idea, but the story of H.H. Holmes.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, he's highly regarded as one of America's very first serial killers, if not the first. And it was so early in American history that people thought it might have been Jack. He might have been Jack the Ripper. But he created in Chicago what was called, they essentially called the murder hotel, where he had sealed off walls and made false rooms. And
Yeah.
it's a really, really intriguing story to read that somebody was able to pull off this kind of intricacy in that day and time. People talk about how wild the world's gotten, how disgusting people are. And like, this guy was in this, 1800s.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty crazy. Maybe 19. Yeah, it may have been early 1900s, but regardless, it was so long ago when people thought everything was so pure and everybody was so, no, this man made an entire hotel
Yep.
with traps and false rooms and a basement, and it's crazy. It's wild to think about. And then you look at him and he looks like just any other guy from that time, bowler hat, mustache, typical.
Right.
But that story, just the intricacy of it is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the neat thing about serial killers and true crime stories to me, is the psychology behind, like, why did they do that? Why did they get to that point? So it's always a neat thing to me. I know that a lot of the times it feels like romanticizing a little bit, but just like mental health, those are the kinds of things that I think need to be talked about. Like if you, in some cases, if you're willing to get help, not that it can prevent you from becoming a serial killer, but sometimes it can prevent you from doing things that you would otherwise not do. And it's just a neat thing to kind of look at these true crime stories and how they can, like, you look at a history of a city or something and how it shaped the city, and it's one person's actions that shaped the city in a bad way, and we're here trying to make it a better way.
Right. Yeah. It is something you got to make sure that you learn, because, the old saying goes, you learn from your history, otherwise you're doomed to repeat it.
Right.
And to your point, like, that's actually how I got into mental health was, I had a friend in high school that committed suicide, and I wanted to know, I wanted to understand what would drive him to do this. Why did he
Yep.
do this? And, because we don't know what other people are going through. We don't know what kind of things lead somebody down that path.
Exactly.
And so that was what ended up getting me kind of into it, was that. And what pushed me over the edge to start doing more actual, like, organizational stuff was Chester Bennington and Chris Cornell, the lead singers of Linkin Park and Soundgarden. When they ended their lives, and same with Robin Williams. Like, I'm seeing all these people that I looked up to growing up taking their own lives, and I had to try to understand, like, why and how is this person that I'm seeing on on TV or on stage all the time with the smile on their face and this positive energy struggling. Like, how are they struggling so bad? And so it was something I always wanted to try to understand better. And that's what kind of got me into this.
Yeah. Well, it's good to hear you say that, because that's one of the things that got me into mental health. Was I had struggled with anxiety, I'd struggled with depression before, but what really got me into the mental health advocacy space was my grandfather, who went missing and has never been found, but the predominant theories are either murder or suicide. And so it's like, in either case, if he had been willing to seek out some mental health assistance, maybe he would still be here. He wouldn't have taken his own life. Or if the person who theoretically maybe murdered him had been willing to seek out some professional intervention, maybe they wouldn't have gone down that route too. So it's always neat to look back at the personal connections we have and how they tie into what we do today, which is pretty cool. Often the ones who smile and joke the most are harboring the most pain. Autumn, yes. And there are studies showing that people with some of the heaviest depression will outwardly have the best, quote unquote, best senses of humor. It's scientific.
Yeah, there's actually, if you ever get a chance, there's a Netflix special by a stand-up comedian named Neil Brennan called Three Mics, and it actually delves into delves pretty deep into the topic of mental health in the stand-up comedy realm, and why people who struggle with depression and anxiety tend to get into a like comedic entertainment realm. And it's Neil Brennan, Three Mics, is so insightful and so good. If you ever get a chance, I highly recommend giving it a watch.
Yeah, Clovitz, go for it. You should be able to post a link. It should be fine. I don't think it'll time you out. If it does, I'll undo it if I can figure out how. Humor is straight up a coping mechanism. I really think class clowns should be invited to undergo mental health screening. That's a good point too. Yeah. So growing up, you had anxiety and depression. What was the biggest challenge before you were diagnosed? And then did your perception of that challenge change at all after arriving at either diagnosis or starting medication in 6th grade?
Well, what ended up leading me up to so a little brief history on my on my family side. I was raised by my grandparents because my parents had me in high school, and they weren't equipped enough to take care of me. And after my parents separated, my mother actually got really deep into drugs. And I kind of always had this like deep seated feeling that, she didn't want me. She cared about the drugs more than she did me, because she still had like a bunch of my other brothers and sisters that she had after him and her and my father had split and with another person. So I had a bunch of half siblings on that side of the family. And like I grew up like hurting, and, realizing that not realizing, but thinking that she didn't want me, that she chose drugs and the rest of the kids over me, and that something was wrong with me because she didn't want me. So I had abandonment issues a lot. But as a child, you don't really come to terms with that. It's really hard to process that. You want somebody to love you, and you just want some kind of acceptance, some kind of connection. And I had that with my grandparents, and it was great and all, but like I think something deep down inside me still thought that if I was to bring anybody else into my life, they were just going to leave me. And so it resulted in a lot of anger problems at an early age. It got really bad in 5th grade going into 6th, and that was what made them take me to a doctor to have me talk to. And because I ended up putting a desk into a wall, like I picked a desk up and I slung it and it stuck in the wall. And that was kind of like you need to get him some help, or we're going to have to do something else with him.
Yeah.
And so the first thing they did, I looking back on it, I'm kind of actually bummed out that they went the route they did first and foremost, because the first thing they did, without talking to me, without putting me through any kind of actual therapy and discussing things and trying to help, my mom didn't take me to a therapist. Well, the person I call my mom is actually my grandmother. But if you hear me say my mom, I'm actually speaking about my grandmother. If you hear me say my mother, I'm talking about my mom. I try not to get people confused on those. But instead of taking me to see like a therapist, she took me straight to a doctor. And a lot of times doctors will just immediately prescribe you a medication without
they will
actually trying to do something. And then if you look through the history of any kind of mental illness in the prescription medication realm, it's almost like they're fads that roll through. There was the all the kids have ADHD phase for a
Mhm.
while. Then it was depression. Then it was bipolar disorder. And it was like people were being diagnosed in mass of these things. And a lot of people just took it as, well, we're just now understanding this. So this is just something we're coming to terms with. And I don't think it was as much that. I have my own reservations on the pharmaceutical industry now that I won't really delve too deep into, but I think that played a lot into why because I went through all those phases. I was initially
Mhm.
diagnosed with depression. Then a few years later, when the medicine started not keeping me kind of zombified for a while, it became, well, maybe he just has bipolar disorder. And then it was anxiety. And then it was intermittent explosive disorder, which I thought was a made up thing because I had just seen it on TV in pro wrestling like 2 weeks prior. And when they told me I was like, no, that's made up. There's no such thing as intermittent explosive disorder. I mean, it's literally called IED.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Right.
it turns out it's a real thing, but
Get a better name.
right? But I think what ended up happening, and this is just what I feel happened from a personal experience, is I wasn't able to process what was going on. I just accepted it. Like I didn't try to understand it. I just accepted, well, this is just who I am. And medicine or not, I fell on it almost like a crutch for bad behavior.
Mhm.
And oh, Steven punched a wall, put a hole in a wall. Well, he's got intermittent explosive disorder. Somebody probably
Right.
just upset him and he went into a blind rage, and I think it did. It gave me almost like a crutch. But if you look at a lot of these pharmaceuticals, they have negative side effects that end up exacerbating the symptoms they're trying to see or trying to treat if you end up on the wrong ones. And I think that's what ended up happening was I just kept getting cycled onto these new medicines because after a while, I finally, as I grew up and started wanting to learn this stuff myself, I decided that maybe it's not about getting on some kind of medicine. Maybe I need to go see somebody that can talk to me about it. And so that was
Mhm.
when
Right.
I started going and seeing a therapist. And that was when I started actually having my eyes open to how mental illness works, that it's not always something as simple as here's a magic pill. It's not like Tylenol can cure a headache. It's not like that, that there's so much still unknown in the realm of mental health and mental illness that
Yeah.
sometimes therapy is better than any medicine,
Mhm.
but that's not the case for everybody. Sometimes for some people, Zoloft may be that thing because there's so many different things that can cause mental illness on a scientific level, like on a biological level with chemical imbalances and um, busted serotonin 2A receptors is a huge one for stuff
Mhm.
like depression, anxiety, and especially post traumatic stress disorder. And so it's like until you can pinpoint what's causing these symptoms, you can't really get the right medicine for it. So to just throw somebody on a pill and say come back in 30 days to me seems dangerous.
Right.
Sometimes
Absolutely.
sometimes it's what people have to do, but for me, therapy actually helped a lot to better understand it. And then years ago, about 4 years ago, I ended up they had me on Seroquel, which is a very potent, uh, I think they said it was an antipsychotic. I stopped looking into it because I got
Mm.
scared because I've heard Seroquel used as like a recreational drug, kinda like Xanax,
Mm.
and the idea of that scared me. Like, I didn't wanna become addicted
Yeah.
to medications, and so I ended up going and seeing a therapist, and I had taken some advice on some alternative medicine ideas on how to wean myself away from those. Now, that being said, I would not recommend I cannot in all good conscience recommend anybody do that, even though it worked for me, because it can be very dangerous to try to wean yourself off of your own medication.
Yeah.
So full disclosure on that, see your doctor first and tell them, listen, you tell your doctor, I need to do something else. Don't do what I did and just do something else. But luckily for me, I got weaned off the medicine. I did go through withdrawals for a while and things got a little bit worse, but I kind of went through that process and afterwards I came on the other side of it way better.
Mhm.
So I've been off medication for 4 years now and I haven't like I still get, my depressive episodes, but I have coping mechanisms now that allow me to get through those in a safe and non-damaging way. And while it sucks going through them, one of my personal biggest things that help me is that knowledge that I'm going to come out on the other side okay. It sucks, but I have a lot going for me, and when I come out on the other side, things are going to be okay.
Yeah. Mage Broski said mental pain is less dramatic than physical pain, but it's more common and also more hard to bear. The frequent attempt to conceal mental pain increases the burden. It's easier to say my tooth is aching than to say my heart is broken. C.S. Lewis. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's
Very good point.
100%. Uncle Louis said, I'm a class clown. I've gone through some things I will not mention. When I make these jokes, I make other people laugh. It makes me feel good, but I can never cheer myself up. Yes. I will
what
also.
Neil Brennan actually talks about a lot in that special. He mentions that almost specifically.
Yep, absolutely. I'll also say, like, Sven was mentioning, like, his experience doesn't mean this is what you should do. And we talk about that all the time here. I'm not a professional. He's not a professional. These are our experiences. You have your experiences. Always, always, always engage your medical professionals in decisions about your diagnosis, about your medication, about everything, your treatment, everything. All of that. Autumn said, I caught myself
opinion.
Yeah. Oh, yes. We talk about firing your therapist all the time.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, if you feel it's not working for you and they think you should stay on that track, get a second opinion. If you have the insurance to go see one doctor, you have the insurance to go see a different one.
Mm-hmm. And you know what's great is that most of the people who talk about you should definitely fire your therapist if they're not working for you are the professionals that I do talk to on here. Like, they're the ones who are always like, listen, if you don't agree with what someone says, ask for more information. If they're not willing to give it to you, go find someone else. Like, that's the thing. Like, you have to find someone who's going to be that advocate, because yes, you can be your own advocate, but you don't know what you don't know. And they know more than you do about specific things, whatever their specialty is. Autumn said, I caught myself a bipolar diagnosis when I kicked in the front door of my house during a massive meltdown. Turned out it was an autistic meltdown and not a manic hypomanic episode. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, misdiagnosis, I think, in the mental health field is more common than any other field. Because again, there's just still so much unknown about what causes different mental health issues that they can't pinpoint them, and so there's a lot of misdiagnosis, a lot of trial and error.
Yeah. Yep. Hey, Bite. Hey, Alex. How are y'all doing? Rocker said medical field be like, why cure a disease when we can treat it for years and bill them every step along the way? So just giving the person pills. Yeah. So, I mean, and that's another really good point. And you mentioned pharmaceutical companies a little bit, but a lot of the stuff that they diagnose is all about marketing, which is a sad statement. And I know that's a US centric problem mostly, but like, you got to keep that in mind too, that prescription companies send representatives to doctors to say, prescribe more of this. It's how
they give doctors commission. That's the problem I have.
Yes.
They give doctors commission. They
get those kickbacks from every prescription that they write, which is how we arrived at this Oxycontin whole epidemic of people addicted to this drug because what company was it?
Oxycontin's is it Pfizer? It may be Pfizer's one of the big ones that puts out opioids like crazy, but
yeah, Purdue, that's the one. Yes, I knew I started with the P. I was like, hang on, but Purdue's chicken. Yes, but Purdue, that's a massive thing, and it's all because of marketing.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's hard. Definitely get an opinion, get a second opinion. Also do your own research, and all the things we usually say here, like, we're not professionals. Make sure that you do what's right for you, for sure. So everyone experiences illnesses, and this is another part of that too. Everyone experiences illnesses differently. I had postpartum depression, and I now have major depressive disorder. And even within myself, like, those are two massively different kinds of depression. And there's all sorts of subsets to every DSM diagnosis. There's all sorts of subsets to these diagnoses. Could you describe what symptoms of anxiety and depression you encountered and how those impacted your daily life?
The worst ones that I encounter still to this day, a lot of times, it happens a lot when I'm alone. Like, so if my family goes out of town for a few days, I start getting into my own head. And the worst one is feeling like everything I do and everything that I work for is all a waste of time. That in the end, I'm alone in this world, and when I'm gone, no, people will cry for a short time, but they won't care in the long run. And then I sleep. I sleep and sleep and sleep, and I don't wait. I don't get up. Like I'll wake up and I'll just pound back a half bottle of ZzzQuil and go back to sleep. And
Hmm.
those are if I get into those real bad funks. They don't happen all the time when my family's gone, but it's like if I fall into a funk and am left alone, that's what I'll do. But luckily my wife has been my rock on a lot of things. Like she, if I feel like I just need to break down and cry about something, she'll kind of hold my head in her lap and let me cry. And that in and of itself helps so much. I mean, just being able to, because scientifically speaking, crying, smiling, all these different shows of emotion, they release serotonin, and serotonin, dopamine, and oxytocin are all released by showing these emotions, which in turn relieve the symptoms of anxiety and
Hmm.
depression. So they help a ton, just being able to actually express these emotions. And so being able to just sit down and cry and for a little bit can help me get through an episode really quick. you know I'm lucky to have kind of that ability, personally, I think. But not everybody's going to be able to have that.
Hmm.
Everybody's not everybody's going to be able to have that same coping mechanism. So I lucked out in that aspect.
Yeah, it as depending on the support system that you have around you, sometimes it's safe to do that and sometimes it's not. And it's like if you can find a partner who's willing to be there for you and be that rock for you, that's amazing.
Yeah,
So
and
oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, recently we got a puppy. Um, he he's technically my son's dog, but when they go out of town, he stays cuddled up against me constantly. Like if I'm out, if I'm not in here working on something in my room, I'll be out there and he'll be right up against me, and it's almost like I swear it's like an emotional support animal, because
Mhm.
like just him curling up to me, and like he'll lay down in my arm like almost like a baby. Like he'll just flop down on his back, just and hang out there. Just having him helps a ton. It's honestly been one of the best blessings in disguise getting that puppy, and I'm thankful for that.
What kind of dog is it?
He is a Schnauzer. He's half
Oh,
Schnauzer, half Shih Tzu.
oh my gosh, how cute.
Yeah,
Nice. Yeah, I've got 3 dogs and one of them is very he's not in here right now, but one of them is very, very sweet and calm. And I got him after my grandfather went missing. I actually got him while we were still in active searches and everything for him. And he's a Catahoula mix, and he is just the most calm, sweetest. Cuddles up right next to you, just looks at you with these. He always looks like he's got sad eyes, but he's like, what do you need right now? What do you need right now? That's what his eyes are always saying to me, which is so cute.
he's like
Not
he
definitely not
looks
like a
at you thinking, "Scratch me, you'll feel
yeah,
better."
right. Right. He's just like, you will pet me? You will pet me? You will pet me? And of course I do.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh, 100% of the time.
Absolutely. So you've talked a little bit about turning to therapy and alternative medicine 4 years ago to help yourself to stop taking those medications. Can you tell us a little bit more about what happened leading up to that decision?
Oh yeah, yeah. So, like I mentioned, when it all happened, I was on Seroquel. And the moment that I decided that this is it, I can't do this anymore, was one thing about Seroquel is it makes you sleep.
Mm.
It makes you super tired. Like I would take it 4 hours prior to bedtime and wake up still exhausted. Like wake up still
Wow.
I mean, I like wake up tired, more tired than I had went to sleep.
Ugh.
And one day, I was on my way to work. I used to work for a company called Aaron's. They're a sales and lease organization that's very predatory in nature. Again, reservations on that. But I was a delivery guy for them. And so that meant I had to drive all day. And on my way to work in my car, I fell asleep driving. I luckily woke up before running off the road because the drunk bumps kind of startled me awake. But I was like, I can't keep taking this medicine if it's gonna make me fall asleep,
Yeah.
even though I took it at 5 o'clock yesterday afternoon and it's 9 o'clock in the morning. It's so that was it. That was the moment that I said, I have to do something else. And it worked. I also, so my doctor that I was seeing, who was prescribing me the Seroquel, had left town. She had went and started a practice in a bigger city, and I didn't know where to turn anyways. So
Hmm.
instead of finding a new doctor, I just saved my money because I was also kind of going through some financial hardships at the time. I, out of necessity, was not able to go see a doctor, and that was unfortunate. But again, lucky, lucky me.
Yeah.
But that was
So,
that was it. That was the moment.
yeah, Maji said that's terrifying, falling asleep while driving. Glad it didn't end badly. Absolutely. Yep.
Oh, yeah, and I'm glad. I'm
100%.
glad if it was going to happen, that it happened while I was in my own car on the way to work and not in the company vehicle, because of these box trucks. They're huge. They're
Yeah.
gigantic. So, you know, I'm able to control. Like, if I get startled awake, I'm able to kind of control that car better than I am that big truck.
Yeah, for sure. So looking back now, would you do anything differently as far as staying on the medication versus coming off of the medication, or the way that you went about it?
Um, like from a principle standpoint, I feel like I would find a way, like a more set in stone safe route to get myself weaned off the medication. Um, but experience wise, seeing how I like, the only thing I wish I would have done was got off of it sooner.
Hmm.
At least tried to find a way to get off of it sooner, because it almost felt like, looking back, there were some of those medications that they had me on, because I was probably on over a dozen medications throughout my life. Um, like, seeing how some of them just turned me into a zombie, and I didn't get to really be who I wanted to be. Um, I do wish I would have found a way to get off of them sooner, especially before the Seroquel, because I felt like that was pretty damaging to me, to my
Yeah.
growth as a person. Honestly, it hindered my way to my ability to experience the world in the way I truly needed to experience it. Um, because that was another thing. Once I've gotten off of that stuff, I've been able to expand my horizons and get out of kind of my small town Oklahoma mentality. I've kind of completely changed as a person,
Hmm.
and it's been for the better. And I just wish I could have done that a little bit sooner.
Yeah. And I will stress that um, there are very valid reasons for being on medications. There are medications that are absolutely 100% life-saving. Neither of us are saying like you need to get off of medications. This is just what worked for one person. And so like there are definitely instances where if I've taken a medication and I'm not happy with it, I have talked to my doctor about it and gotten changes that way. And it's just one of those things you have to know yourself. Sometimes better than doctors know you and let them know what's working and what's not working. And if you can't tell them what's working and what's not working, take someone with you who can. Like everyone has that friend who can go into mom mode and be an advocate for whatever, whether it's like you need ketchup at the table and no one wants to ask. Well, there's that one person who's like, you need ketchup? I'll get you ketchup. There's also that one person in your life that you'll be able to find that's going to be like, look, I'll help you make a list. We'll go into the doctor. If you want me in the room with you, you can sign the forms for me to be in the room with you. And we can talk through it with them. Autumn said they had me on so much lithium, made me emotionally sterile. I'm on Wellbutrin and Adderall, and it's treating me pretty well. It took quite some time. Yes, to figure out what you needed help with. Yes, absolutely. And figure out what worked for you. Yes, for sure.
The one thing I can't stress enough when it comes to speaking to any kind of professional, whether it be a therapist or just a medical doctor, is to be 100% honest about everything. Don't go in there with this, like if you're trying a medication, they want to try you on something and you come back in the month for the checkup, because that's what they'll do. Don't go in there and, well, I mean, I feel, I kind of feel better. No, be honest. Like if you feel that it's putting you out of sorts, or you feel that it's not working, don't pretend that it is, because that's just going to do more harm than good.
Yeah.
Make that call with your doctor.
Yeah. Well, and beyond just being honest about what side effects you're experiencing or how effective the medication is being, because whenever you go into a doctor, not a therapist usually, but like I know that my GP, at least, they're in there to get in and get out and see another patient. Like that's what they're there for. And if you don't stop them and say, no, we need to talk about this, they're just going to get in and get out. But the other part of that is to be completely honest. Like if you tell them, I'm in Texas, it's not legal here. If you tell them I smoke pot on a regular basis, which I don't, but I would if it was legal, probably. But if you
alternative medicines.
Right. I mean, if you
That's what it
don't
was.
tell them, so my ex had a blood clot from like his ankle almost all the way up to his shin bone. Almost all the way up to his knee and the front of his leg at one point. He went into the hospital and they were asking him all these questions. So I met him up there, and they were like, okay, well, do you do this? Do you do this? Do you do this? Do you do this? And he'd been sober for several years, so he didn't drink anymore, but they got to marijuana, and he said no. And I said, back up. They're not about to send police officers in here to arrest you. They cannot share those records with anyone. Like, you need to be honest, because this is something that is life-threatening. And if you're not honest with them, and it goes from life-threatening situations all the way down to medications that you take on a daily basis, that's a really important thing to be honest with your doctor about. And I cannot stress enough that they are not sharing that information with the police. Like, that's not why they're asking you that.
Exactly. They're asking because there are medications that do counteract with certain other things. Like, that's why, like, they'll even ask, like, what's your caffeine consumption?
Yeah.
And that's another thing, like, little side note. If you're consuming 2, 3, 4 energy drinks a day, please slow down, because caffeine can be very anxiety inducing.
Yes, it can.
It's an accelerant, like it's a stimulant, kind of like, I mean, literally, it's like a mild form of cocaine. It's just legal and accepted. I was drinking 3, 4 energy drinks a day, and when I say energy drinks, I'm not talking monsters with 160 milligrams of caffeine. I'm talking bangs with 300. Like, I was taking in over 1,000 milligrams of caffeine a day.
God bless.
Well, yeah. Well, and so, there's actually an interesting story behind how I found out getting off caffeine ended up being a positive for me when it comes to keeping my thought process right and being able to cope with things and not delve into like the worst pits of anxiety. Back in September, I ended up losing a cousin to COVID, and after I came home, I had to. This was pretty damaging to me. I went through a series of stuff, and I feel it's important to talk about. I witnessed somebody in their life on TikTok Live. It was completely shocking.
Wow.
And I didn't sleep for 3 days. It sent me into a real bad place. And then I ended up getting a call from my mom that my cousin had passed away. And when we get over there, I just want to be there for my family as much as possible. We get over there. He also had Graves' disease, so he was extremely overweight. And they sent 2 people there to help the coroner get him out of the house, and they couldn't do it. So I ended up having to help, which that messed with me more than I realized at the time. And because that was the first time I'd ever seen a body outside of like a funeral, and it was difficult. And then I came home, and I had taken a shower, and I was so exhausted. I broke down crying, and I almost fell asleep. Then I get a call that my aunt had tested positive for COVID, and I was with her, and I had given her a hug. And so I had to quarantine off from my family, and that didn't help things.
No, not at all.
I had to lock myself in a room, and I finally fell asleep, and I slept for 3 days straight. Like, I woke up literally to eat and went back to sleep. So mostly out of pure exhaustion at that point. But what ended up happening was when I woke up, I just didn't like crave an energy drink. So I went to just drinking water. I've been drinking like Bai a lot lately, these things. And they have a little bit of caffeine in them, but I ended up just not wanting one anymore. And then I ended up deciding one day, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go get one. I'm kind of tired today. I went to drink it. I was like, oh, this tastes like crap. It's like your taste buds kind of adjust when you get used to drinking water and stuff that's not super sweet. And I was like, this tastes like pure sugar. And it's like, there's no sugar in it, but it tastes like pure sugar. And I just couldn't do it anymore. So I've weaned myself almost completely off of energy drinks. Every now and then I'll have like a Mountain Dew Kickstart. Those have about as much caffeine as a regular Mountain Dew anyways. And I've noticed such a drastic change in my energy levels, my natural energy levels. Like, I can almost get by on just like a good 5 hours of sleep now, instead of like 8 to 9 hours of like really bad sleep because of all the caffeine. And it's really helped a lot. So if there's one thing I can say is, if you're taking in tons of caffeine, please just try to supplement at least half of what you're drinking in caffeine with water instead, and just See if you can notice
Yeah.
the difference. Try to wean yourself off of them. They're not good for you, you know.
Mhm.
Coffee's a different type of caffeine, you know, because it's like a naturally occurring caffeine. It's not a synthetic like anhydrous that they use in energy drinks. And it also actually comes with coffee has natural nootropics in it, which kind of help boost certain brain functions as opposed to just
Mhm.
spiking your energy. So coffee is actually not so bad within, you know, obviously within moderation, but it's really it's been dang near life changing. You know, it's been awesome. And when it comes to the Monster coffee drinks, they do have natural caffeine in them because they are brewed with coffee, but it is still like way too much if you're getting
Mhm.
their ones that have 300 milligrams. 'Cause that's just like that's too much caffeine. Like you can do what's called a toleration break or tolerance break, where you take a few days off of it, and you may end up with a headache or something, but then it won't take near as much, you know, caffeine from
Yeah.
coffee to get you kind of up and going again. So yeah, slow down on the caffeine.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, that, Bite said even non-illegal stuff can have negative interactions, and that can have caffeine can have interactions with certain medicines, but also things like your supplements. Like if I take a lot of supplements for my hands until I can have the surgery, which, who knows when that's actually going to happen. But until I can have the surgery, I take a lot of different supplements for my hands that has been recommended for me to take. But whenever I go in and they're asking me about what medications I'm on, if they're looking at prescribing me something different, I also include every supplement that I take and the amounts, even if it's just something like turmeric. Like I take 1,500 milligrams twice a day of turmeric, and it's like that's included because that can interact with blood pressure medicines, and I'm not on blood pressure medicines, but if it can interact with that, it can interact with other stuff too. So it's important to know. Turmeric can potentiate Wellbutrin also. Yes. Yeah, exactly. My mother-in-law, she had a blood cancer, and before she died, like she had to watch how much broccoli she ate. Like even something like broccoli with certain medications, that was because she was on, Coumadin, I think. And you have to really watch how much of certain things that you eat. Rocker said they may have a lot of caffeine or sugar or whatever, but they're delicious. Although I drink caffeine drinks, rather it be pop, a Red Bull, or that in a subtle manner. Yeah. The mama said, oh yeah, I cannot have too much caffeine, any little bit, depending on how I'm feeling, that I can kickstart my anxiety big time. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, and it can do that. And like there are the regular, like what do they call them? The Java monsters that are not the ones that have the 300 milligrams of caffeine. They have them that have like a much lower amount. Like I think that the standard monster comes with like 160 milligrams, which is almost half of a bang. And so those do come with more natural caffeine. So 160 milligrams of natural caffeine in like a Java monster is going to be way better than the synthetic like guarana style, caffeines that you get in a regular energy drink. So
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, the sugar, whatever. Like if you don't have a problem drinking sugary drinks, by all means, kind of thing. I like my coffee black though, so that's like I used to make the joke that my wife hates this joke, but I'm going to tell it anyways. I'll tell her that I like my coffee, my tea. My coffee and my tea, like I like my future ex-wives, bitter as all get out.
I can see why she doesn't like that.
To your point, Rocker, they make the Java monsters with the 300 milligrams and without. I recommend getting it. If you're going to drink one, don't drink the one with 300 milligrams of caffeine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
St. John's wort also, for sure.
Yeah, avoid these ones.
Yeah, right. Don't do what he's doing. Listen to what he says.
Monster triple shots. Yeah. one of those little crappy do as I say, not as I do things.
Right.
No, I drank that like 2 weeks ago. I just forget to clean my stream rooms.
Lit Mama said, I love the taste of coffee, but stick to decaf and 100% have to stay away from energy drinks. Yes. Yeah, energy drinks mess me up, but coffee I can drink every day. I didn't drink coffee drinks drink energy drinks once in a while because I just to just get the energy. Oh, you drink them just because you want to, or to get the energy for it. Gotcha. So I think we've hit some of the high points of kind of what to avoid if you're considering weaning yourself off of medication. Do you have any advice for things to do or to look for if someone is considering weaning themselves off of medication for anxiety or depression or something similar?
More than anything, it kind of goes back to the the idea of being 100% open and honest and talking to your primary care physician or your
Yeah.
therapist. I mean, my thing is 100% of the time, I would personally recommend seeing a therapist before seeing a primary care physician on aspects of mental health, because there is a lot of it that is psychological as opposed to physiological. And I think that's a good first step, because if you can do it without introducing a foreign substance, then that's the route to go.
Yeah.
But if you are already on medication, you're wanting to get off, and you haven't already spoken to a therapist, by all means, start there. But then definitely speak with your primary care physician and tell them, listen, I don't like what this is doing at all.
Yeah.
Don't go in there and just kind of name a couple of things you don't like about it. Just say, I don't like this, and I need to find something else. Can we lower my dosage for now? And I go see a therapist, because they can dial back your dosages. And
Mhm.
if your primary care physician recommends that, then that would be a great way to start.
Yeah.
Reducing your dosage and supplementing that with therapy, and hopefully you can get yourself into that position. But sometimes it's not going to work out. But hopefully, that would be my suggestion on where to start.
Most of the time, I feel like it should be a combination of therapy and medication for a lot of mental illnesses. Of course, there are exceptions. Postpartum depression is a big one. Sometimes all it takes for that is medication. Like that. Sometimes that's all it is. If it is a strictly chemical imbalance in your brain, then sometimes medication is all you need. Still recommend going to therapy anyway, because everyone needs a little bit of therapy. Just not a person in the world could not benefit from some therapy sessions every now and then.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And actually, to Lit Mama's point, meditation too. Meditation's also, it can be, people don't realize how beneficial just, clearing your mind, putting yourself in a relaxed environment for a few minutes, maybe putting on some kind of relaxing. I like to use rain sounds, because I meditate. But I don't do it as often as I probably would like. I put aside about probably 5 minutes one day a week, and just sit there with just some calming rain sounds, clear my mind, because getting your mind racing a million miles a minute's so difficult. Like, it's so difficult to dial back from that. But if you can hit that reset button, then not only is it beneficial to your mental health, but even like on let's say a creative scale, like a creativity scale, slowing your mind down can actually help a lot. So I definitely do enjoy doing that. But like I said, I only do it probably 5 minutes out of the week myself.
Yeah, and I've tried meditation. We have had some guided meditation on this channel before, with Songs of Healing in particular. If you guys haven't checked her out, she's amazing. Twitch and Twitter for her both. But and the thing that I have a problem with is that I just can't, like, if my eyes close, they're gonna open again. Like, I can't do it. So my meditation is more like drawing, doodling, coloring, something pretty mindless that I can just kind of do on the side on my desk whenever I need to clear my head. And Bite especially likes to remind me all the time that, yeah, that's considered meditation, because it's clearing your head. Like, it's not always just she's saying it right now. See, listen.
Yes, that's what my wife does. My wife's an artist, so she actually sits there and she'll at night she'll just doodle.
Yes.
Pull up a pad, or a notepad every now and then, just kind of doodle for a while.
Yep.
Big thing for me, like outside of just like typical meditation, is music. I've actually changed my taste in music over the last few years, and about 2 years ago, I would say, I was like really into the hard metal and the screaming, kind of like angry sounding music. And for some people, that's like more of a release, like being able to get that out. Is like, but for me, I think it was influencing me the other way, to feel that way as opposed to release that way. And so I've actually I've changed a lot of my musical taste, and I've grown fond of stuff like electro swing, which I know is kind of a silly concept, but I love it. And I love folk music now, like something that I could sit and honestly fall asleep to.
Yeah.
And that's in lo-fi music. Oh God, I love lo-fi. Like, lo-fi is something, if I sit and put on lo-fi music, I'll just clear everything, and I'll just sit there and just like fall into it. And next thing I know, it's like 2 hours later, I'm like, oh crap. Yeah, that's a thing too. I live next to a train track, so if you heard that.
I love it. It's great. Yeah, I'm one of those. There was one day that I was at work, and whenever I edit, because I edit for work, whenever I edit, I just put on music, usually without words because it's hard to edit when you have other people's words in your head, but I'll put on, instrumental and that kind of thing. And so I was listening to piano music and I just let the algorithm just pick whatever is next whenever I'm doing that. And at one point I felt myself like really agitated and it was lunchtime. I was like, man, I don't know why I'm so just irritated today. And one of my coworkers, this was before COVID, one of my coworkers was like, well, what are you doing? I'm like, well, I'm editing. And she said, what are you listening to? I said, piano music. And she said, well, which music are you listening to? And so I let her listen a little bit. And she's like, this is what's making you mad.
Yeah.
And so I switched it up. Yeah, it really can. And I had not put any thought into that at all. I was just like, I'm just listening to, piano music. Who cares? It's just piano music. No, it can really mess with your head sometimes. So, and it's not like that all the time. Like not every piece of music will move me like that. But sometimes you get into some angry music, even piano music, and it's like, why am I irritated? Oh, okay.
Like, why is this dude beating this piano with a sledgehammer?
Right.
Yeah, I definitely feel you on the idea of having like no lyrics, because that's one thing.
Mhm.
Like if I decide to sit down and start doing some video editing for my streams or something like that, if I listen to something that has words in it, I find myself distracted because I'm trying to like
Yes.
sing along or listen to the words, like to the message behind them. And same with like trying to sleep. Like I cannot listen to music and fall asleep if it has words in it because I'm trying to listen. Like the only thing I can listen to and fall asleep that has words is like a TV show I've seen 1.5 million times,
Mm-hmm.
which
Yes.
apparently I've come to find out recently is something that people with anxiety do, because it's like you want to kind of distract your mind while you're trying to fall asleep, but at the same time, you're not paying that much attention because you already know what's going on.
And it's predictable.
Exactly. There's this sense of familiarity with it that, and whenever I first read that, I was like, huh. So I started reading the article and the actual like scientific theory behind it. And it hit me. I'm like, I think I've watched the entire Bob's Burgers series over 12 times now. And this makes so much sense.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So Lit Mama said the first therapist I went to suggested a couple of meditation and breathing apps, thinking our first appointment, that have changed my whole perspective and coping strategies. Yeah, it really can. Really can. She said, I'm right there with you. I haven't been successful at meditating with just some guided breathing apps. Now, I like guided breathing. That I can do. I like that quite a bit. It's the more traditional stuff I can't. Autumn said, yeah, I've definitely largely done away with metal in my life, way more than electronica. Yeah. Lo-fi, I knew I liked this, man. There you go. I found the Vitamin String Quartet, and that's who I listen to when I'm having a hard time. CR did a few Mighty Vibe streams that are like an hour of lo-fi, and they're so good. Nice. Yes, there you go.
If like guided meditation is something that you're interested in trying out and you haven't done anything with it at all yet, if you have not, Tiny Build has a game out actually called Waking, and in this game you're actually going through an adventure through your own mind, and it personalizes your experience in it, and it gives you some guided meditation through. I played this game like off stream as part of a blog I was working on at the time, and there were points in it where it hit the heartstrings just right, that it was like it made me tear up. And but the guided meditation in it is so good. It's called Waking. If you get a chance, I say play it. It's on PC and Xbox One. So they're like, since we're on Twitch and this is kind of a gaming thing,
Yeah.
like definitely if guiding meditation is something that you are at least interested in, I highly recommend that game.
Well, I just pulled up the Steam page for it. It looks beautiful also, which, as we were talking about earlier, like that's something that I love in games, is just whenever they're so well done.
Yeah.
And this one looks gorgeous, honestly.
Yeah, it's a very, very well done game.
Yeah. Boruto ending 14 has me a little teary-eyed, but it is relaxing. I don't know much.
Boruto has 14 endings already. I thought that was only like a small series.
I have no idea. I don't know much about anime. My kiddo loves anime, but it's not that I don't like it. I just have never gotten into it, you know?
Yeah, a lot of people are that way. You know?
Yeah.
It's like with anything else, and different strokes for different folks kind of things.
Yeah, it's not like that I don't like knitting. I've just never gotten into it. Like, it's the same. That's the same statement for me. Also, that one game, I think it's called Journey. It's a relaxing and chill. Is that the one where you're like a leaf or a feather? Is that the right? I thinking of the right one?
I think if I'm not mistaken, I may be wrong here, but I think Journey's the one. It's like it has like this little like tall, slender figure, and you spend a good portion of it in the desert. If I'm not
Mm.
mistaken, it was because I did play that one. It was really really fun.
Oh, you're a character in a robe. Okay. Oh, okay. All right. I don't know which one I'm thinking of. There's one where you're like a leaf and you follow the wind. You know
That
which one
sounds super
which one
relaxing.
I'm talking about? Let's see if I can find this. Or I'll bet Bite Mark can probably find it before I can. Leaf,
I think
wind.
it's literally called Leaf.
Is it?
Oh, no. That's a person. You play as a person in that game.
Yeah, and I don't think you play as a person. Man, or maybe it's a flower. Maybe it's a flower. You follow the wind, essentially. It might be a flower. Maybe it is called flower. Actually, I think that is it. Let me see. Yes, that's the one. That is the one, Autumn. You're correct. Oh, is it the same
Really
studio
pretty.
as Journey? Yeah. So there you go. It's there you go. That's a neat one. I haven't played it, but I watched trailers of it and it looks beautiful.
Annapurna Interactive is their publisher, and they made another game called or they published another game called What Remains of Edith Finch that is an absolute emotional roller coaster. They publish some really good games.
Yeah. So what do you do now that you're off of traditional medication that helps you best manage depressive episodes?
The big one being the recognition that I will get through it. And honestly, I'm gonna give like ultimate props to kind of the community I've surrounded myself with in the streaming industry, because there's not a single one of them that wouldn't sit and listen to me kind of get stuff off my chest. Even if it's not to give advice or anything like that, but just to vent something out. The amount of support that I've received from just my friends in the streaming community has been second to none.
Mm-hmm.
Except for maybe my wife. Like because she knows more
Of
about
course.
what I go through, but it helps a ton. Like if I can just reach out to somebody and they're like, "Yeah, man, let it go," and just let me fire, whatever I need to vent at them, and that in and of itself has been the biggest help to me. So honestly, it seems like streaming is what has allowed me to be able to to find new coping mechanisms.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, I do use medicinal marijuana, literally once a week. It's like I can use it once a week and be just kind of mellow.
Yeah.
It's been a godsend for me. But yeah, those are kind of my two biggest ones. And like I said, I will hit those depressive episodes. They'll happen, but having somebody to cry on their shoulder helps me. It's a great coping mechanism for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I never in my entire life growing up thought that Oklahoma would legalize marijuana before Texas.
Yeah, and I will.
That to
I'm
me
gonna
is
say it now.
bizarre.
I'm gonna say it now. Oklahoma's medical marijuana laws are the most lenient medical marijuana laws in the country. We are at this point somewhere between recreational and medical. It's
Mm-hmm.
the lines are that blurry because you can
Yeah.
go, yeah, and I'll tell you, it's this easy. You can go to a doctor anywhere and just pay. The reason they kept it medical is because since you have to apply for a card, the state gets money for it,
Mm-hmm.
and that's it.
Oh yeah.
And that's
Yep.
it. The state gets money for it because it's unbelievably easy. You can literally go find a doctor whose office is next to a dispensary, and they'll just do your little paperwork, and boom, your card
Yeah.
will be there in 2 weeks. And you're free to use it however you feel.
Yeah. Yep. Pretty much. This might be spicy, but I'm trying to figure out how I can legally obtain psilocybin a few times a year. Ooh, well, that's a trip.
Okay, so I'm not going to condone or not condone this, but apparently, you can actually obtain it in the city limits of Denver, Colorado. Have not looked into the validity of this, but this is what I've heard.
There you go.
Because I've doing a lot of research, I've come to find that there are a bunch of actual medical studies being done into the effects of psychedelics on the repair of the serotonin 2A receptors in the brain to treat stuff like PTSD. And I find it
Interesting.
I find it incredibly interesting because I'm a big fan of like holistic natural medicines.
Hmm.
I'm not, no offense to people who are, I'm not like an essentials oils guy, but like I believe that there's a lot of natural medicines in the world, and I'll be 100% honest. I've 100% honest with my community. I've dabbled in the use of DMT before, um, as recently as 2 weeks ago, and I think that honestly that has helped me too because it's helped me open up my perception of how I view things in a more
Hmm.
humanitarian, grounded view. It's actually been incredible. And it's funny because I do have access to psilocybin, but for some reason, like I was not near as fearful of DMT because those I call them sessions last like 30 minutes. And then it's like a Rick and Morty episode, quick adventure. It's
Yeah.
extreme,
Right.
it's intense. It's like quick adventure in and out, and with psilocybin, it's like it can last anywhere from a couple hours to up to 8 hours. And it's like that
Yeah.
for some reason kind of like makes me nervous. But one of these days, I mean, I'm gonna try it because I believe in the healing powers of Mother Nature. I
Hmm.
like I haven't used any kind of synthetic, like any kind of synthetic psychedelics or have access to them because I just don't really I don't trust people, because the DMT I get is from the Mimosa hostilis root bark, which is just a naturally occurring plant here in the United States. You can get
Yep.
that. You can go out and find a Mimosa hostilis plant and get the root bark off of it. It's not like it's, you know, some kind of weird scientific method that you do in your basement with rubber tubes and batteries like methamphetamine, which is a huge problem in Oklahoma.
Hmm.
But because everybody's scared of Joe Rogan, it still has a a negative connotation to it.
Yeah. LSD is 14 to 16 hours on average. See, those are things I don't want to be out of control of myself for that long. And that's just me being control freak, basically.
It makes me nervous.
Yeah,
That's
for
what.
sure. I understand that.
Mhm.
Have you watched Hamilton's Pharmacopoeia on
I
Hulu?
have not.
I
I do
highly
have Hulu, so I
recommend,
need to watch it.
highly, highly, highly recommend that show. It
If
is,
if you if you have Netflix also, there's a documentary called Have a Good Trip, and it talks about psychedelics, but it's a bunch of celebrities, mostly comedians, talking about their experiences with psychedelics. It's really interesting.
I do
Must recommend.
have, I do have that one. So let me grab. All right, so have a good trip, and then Hamilton's Pharmacopoeia. Let me post those two links real quick. But
Yeah,
Hamilton's Pharmacopoeia it's a series, and it's, I mean, it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And this guy is just a skinny beanpole of a guy, and he goes on some of the weirdest adventures. But it's all about chemistry and psychedelics and different drugs and all over the world. It's really amazing.
interesting. Another one, while we're on the Netflix too, this is more of a like a podcast turned into like an animated series. It's called The Midnight Gospel, and it was made by the guys that made Adventure Time. But they took this guy's podcast, kind of tweaked it enough to make it into like a story-based animated series. Is super, super interesting. Um, I did make the mistake of watching an episode of it while on DMT. Yeah, and it was it was weird. Don't know if I'd recommend that, but it's a really interesting series too.
Yeah. Got the link for sure. Oh, Alex has watched Midnight Gospel. Very trippy. Trippy can be tough to follow. Got it.
Yeah. Yeah, like going into it knowing that it's actually based around a podcast that was done by Pendleton Ward helps a ton. Or
Yeah.
made by Pendleton. Like going in knowing that, it's like, "Oh, okay. A lot more of this makes sense than what I thought was going on."
Right. Right. So we talked a little bit about depression. Do you have any strategies that you found particularly helpful for the symptoms of anxiety that you experience?
Yeah, so this is kind of the what is it? I don't really want to use narcissistic, but like this a little bit selfish side of me. Getting hyped up by my friends helps a lot because a lot of my anxiety revolves around me not being good enough at what I'm trying to accomplish in life. And then having somebody be able to tell me, look, dude, this is what you've done just in this amount of time. That kind of like it's almost like eye-opening and brings it, and like I hate that that's like a coping mechanism for me, because it feels like I'm just like fishing for compliments sometimes, and it sucks. I don't like being that guy, but I do also like being the better version of myself. So instead of just letting it fester, if I can have somebody hype me up a little bit and get
Mhm.
myself back on track, then that puts me in a position to better try to turn around and give that back. It makes it easier for me to give that kind of love and hype back to somebody.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and
That
it's important to be able to understand the impact that you've made on a community for sure. And that's something that I faced as well, is just this, like, I have plenty of days where I'm like, am I making a difference? And I can point to several instances where, like, yeah, of course you are. I mean, yes, you are. You've been told that you are, but sometimes it's hard to remember that when you're in one of those moments.
and Mage, to your point there, yeah, I mean, it is called positivity, but unfortunately, whenever you suffer from a mental illness, sometimes positivity just makes it a little bit. I mean, you can't just be positive; it makes it so much more difficult. Um, I shared a quote a while back that did say, positivity is not necessarily just being happy and okay all the time,
Hmm.
but positivity is knowing that on the other side of the darkness comes the dawn, and that's the sometimes the best you can do. And it again, it sucks. It sucks. You won't be happy getting through it, but knowing that you're going to get through it helps.
Yep, absolutely. Rocker said Rev's left a great impression on me within his community. Awesome. See, there you go. People who tell other people just be happy or don't understand what someone else is going through. Yeah, that's like the just cheer up statements, or those kinds of things. It's not exactly helpful all the time. Like, there's toxic positivity, and you can't just tell someone, like, smile, everything's going to be okay. Sometimes it's acknowledging.
Yeah, and it's you probably can relate to this being in Texas, but being here in Oklahoma where everything is just like so closed-minded and old school that that's the mentality here is,
Hmm.
well, just cheer up. But I found myself being that, being outspoken about my support in, the breaking of the stigma of mental health, that I have people that I went to high school with that reach out to me now. And even my little brother, who struggled with drug addiction and now he's struggling with alcoholism, he reached out to me and, asked if I could help him find a therapist within his insurance network. And I'm like, and that gives me hope that people, even in a closed-minded part of society like where I live, it people are becoming more open to the idea
Hmm.
of breaking it. And it comes down to here as well. One of the biggest issues is there's a much higher staggering number of men who suffer here, into the point that it results in a suicide because of toxic masculinity. This A man isn't supposed to show his emotions. Like, a man isn't supposed to cry. A man isn't supposed to do this. It's like, well, a human being is.
Hmm.
A human being is supposed to be able to feel emotion and feel
Yeah.
pain and hurt and love and happiness. It's here. You don't need to be a man to be this kind of person. No, you just need to be a human being and support others in being human beings. And it's good to see that stigma even being broken in an area as closed off as this one.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah, Texas is very much the same, and it's amazing to me how early it starts too, with boys and in school, and just it's incredible. But fortunately, here's the other thing I'll say about that is, if you are a parent and you have kids and you notice it happening at school and through peers, talk to teachers, because they're usually receptive now, where I don't know if they would have been receptive, 20 years ago, but they're usually receptive now to actually addressing it in the classroom. And they see it as a problem instead of just how things are. So
Yep,
good
absolutely.
changes, definitely.
Yeah, I love to see the direction that a lot of people are taking in an effort to kind of break that stigma and be more open to the aspect
Yeah.
of mental health. And because one thing we got to recognize is that that's what sets us apart from any other species. Like, we have this self-awareness about us that, you know we know what we are, that and a lot of other species don't have this. They just exist. They just are. They have like no concept of time. They have no real stresses. They just have their instincts that they follow. And so that's what kind of separates us from the rest of like the animal kingdom, and what makes it necessary to be more open to the idea that even mentally speaking, we do need to remember that we're different.
Hmm. So does what you've lived through, or what you live with now help you relate to others in some way? Have there been any instances where your experiences or background or your story has helped you connect to someone else?
Oh yeah, 100%. Biggest example being my little brother. While I didn't go through the drug addiction and the alcoholism that he is, we both kind of came from the same um, like abandonment issues thing. The only difference was I was more receptive to figuring out a solution at an earlier age than he is, because he's only 3 years younger than me. But being able to, listen to him tell me exactly how he feels, and like, dude, I know a lot of people don't get it, but I literally went through the exact same thing, and you know it because you were there too. Here's what I did. And he started asking me questions because he's seen the changes I've made in my life over the last few years. And that in and of itself has been an inspiration for him to want to be better
Hmm.
and do better by himself. And that has been, honestly, if nothing else, seeing him do better has been the biggest beacon of hope for me. Because if seeing the path he went down to end up where he's at now, wanting the help and actually getting it and seeking it, has been completely eye opening. That no matter what, there's a purpose for it.
Hmm. Yep.
There's a purpose for everything, even if I had to go through something and learn to be strong just to show somebody else that it's possible. So that's, yeah, that one's rough for me, but it's so encouraging
Yeah.
to see him take the steps he has.
Well, and it's nice that he knows that he can also reach out to you and contact you and connect with you on that level instead of just kind of, hey, how's it going? Take it a notch up in your conversations. That's good.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what is the biggest or best or most profound thing you've learned from someone in your streaming community? And that could be the community that you have built on Twitch or the streaming community at large. And how did that come about?
Uh, okay, so I think like one of the most profound things that I noticed was very early on. So I started streaming in June of 2018. In November of 2018, I decided to do my first charity stream for the Brain and Behavior Research Foundation. And I was kind of at a point where I was just like, I was asking questions on my own, like, am I doing anything here? Is this worth it? And all this. But during that stream, I got rated by who became a good friend after this. His name is Droopy Drawers, and which is a hilarious name. But he actually was doing for Anime for Humanity what I'm doing now. Plus, he wore several other hats, and seeing like that moment was like the starting point for the journey that led me to realize just how amazingly supportive of mental health the streaming community as a whole is. Like,
Yeah.
I've never seen just how I've never seen the sheer amount of people that are so open to it. Um, and just like with any good, there does come some bad. There are people that try to like piggyback off of it, and some people that try to use it as an excuse for why they're this way. And it's like, no, that's not really how this works, kind of thing. But the good outweighs the bad in such a drastic amount that it's it's mind-boggling. Growing up
Hmm.
where I grew up, like, that was a profound eye-opening moment for me as a whole, because
Yeah.
I was still in this environment that I just thought this was the way it was, because this is where I'd been. And that moment, it was the moment that turned me around and got me kind of hammering back down on moving forward with streaming. And then it also opened up the doors to seeing more about mental health and how just supportive the streaming community is. So it's like I found my home.
Hmm.
I'm lucky to have had that happen as early as it did, so that way it was something I could be more a part of.
Yeah. Yeah. That's been something that for me has been a positive, mostly in the streaming community. There are plenty of people who I've encountered who are like, well, you're not a mental health professional. Stop talking about mental health. Actually, it's not a lot. It's just a handful. And none of them are professionals either. All of the professionals I've met are like, no, keep doing what you're doing. So
Yeah, I think what ends up happening a lot is some people try to virtue signal,
Mhm.
which is, and even if it's unintentional, they hear somebody mention at one point that this person's not a professional. They don't need to be talking about it. It's like it's not that they don't need to be talking about it. They just have to be careful in the way they discuss it.
Yes.
Make it understandable that you are not a professional, but these are my experiences.
Hmm.
And that's one thing that we discuss a lot with AFH is like we don't have, the organization within itself does not have any mental health professionals, but we do have people with experiences in it, and that is how we speak is from the point of somebody with experiences, not somebody
Hmm.
who is a professional, and we make that known every time.
Yep. Well, exactly. And one of the things between a mental health, there's a huge difference between a mental health advocate and a mental health professional in that a mental health professional can't really relate their experiences to you and they can't tell you how they dealt with something. Like that's not their job. Mental health advocate can absolutely say, here's what I went through that was kind of similar. And also here's what I did to deal with it. Like that's totally something that they can do. And so it's two sides of the same coin. And it's like, it helps complete the picture. And if we're not talking about it, then no one's talking about it. And that's a problem in and of itself.
Right. And see, like I'll say, I'm usually not one to say that somebody's opinion is downright wrong. But to sit there and tell somebody that they don't need to be talking about mental health because they're
Hmm.
not a professional is wrong,
Yeah.
because my reasoning being the more people feel like they need to remain quiet because they're not a professional, the more the stigma gets to thrive. The
Yeah.
idea that
Absolutely.
it's like it's not something you're supposed to talk about. It's like,
Hmm.
no, you just need to make sure you understand how you are coming across. That way others can understand that you are just speaking from personal experience, that this may not work for you. Consult a mental health professional, whether it be a therapist, a doctor, whether it be calling one of those hotlines that can really honestly be a ton of help. Do not be quiet about it. Just
Yeah.
be sure you carry
Yes.
yourself in a manner, in the proper manner.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, Sea Bear, yeah, just take off the at MommaFoxFire and type in a colony without the period, and you should get the points for that. You're correct. Just don't just type the answer. So if you weren't doing what you do now, or if you had chosen a different path, what would you be doing or have done instead?
Oh, probably would I'd probably honestly have worked a lot harder to get another job in aircraft manufacturing. Um, because that's what I was doing. I've been laid off since January, which has been hard. It's been hard to deal with. But there are no other aircraft manufacturing jobs or even
Right.
jobs that pay okay in my area, which is why I'm currently trying to move. But I probably, if I didn't have what I have now with streaming and the people that I've surrounded myself with, I probably would have panicked a lot more, and honestly probably put myself in a rougher position trying to move to get back into aircraft manufacturing, because I was technically laid off right before COVID became a thing.
Ugh.
But because of COVID, they ended up shutting our plant entirely down,
Right.
because just like the problems that they were trying to fix were not able to be fixed, and they just felt it was more financially responsible to shut down the small plant here and just move the jobs elsewhere, completely removing aircraft manufacturing from anywhere within 2 hours of me, which it's rough.
Hmm.
It is, because I loved that job. I had never loved a job in my life more than I did building airplane parts. Between, just getting to do something obviously, or honestly, away from customers, because I've worked customer service my whole life up until that point. Uh, but I had a lot of really good friends that I worked with on a daily basis, and I didn't realize just how much having a lot of friends in the workplace can really just brighten your day about having to go to work. Like it was like I wouldn't go into my job. I was going to hang out with my friends and just do stuff on the side.
Hmm.
And so I probably would have panicked a lot more and ended up somewhere else entirely. And I don't know. It's been a strange experience to say the least. But I don't know. I may not have ever even ended up in aircraft manufacturing had I chose a different path, because I think I was getting into this before I actually ended up going and doing my job over there. I was still working at Aaron's, and I probably would have just panicked and went back to that. But one of the things that like starting streaming has done is like made me try to find a place where I can have a more set schedule so that way I can keep my streaming schedule.
Mhm.
But then again, COVID happened and all the decent jobs here went away. Not even like all the good jobs. It's like the only thing I could do right now is go work in fast food. I'm like,
Mhm.
if it came to that, I would, but I'm going to try my best to go somewhere where there are jobs. And we found a place. My wife actually already got a job there. She goes to do her paperwork tomorrow. We're going to get moved. And yeah, it's just, I don't know what I would really be doing right now.
Mhm.
I don't think I'd be as happy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's neat to see how your kind of life trajectory just brought you to one single place. And sometimes you can point back to specific things that got you here, and sometimes you can't. But yeah, it's like it's a cool thing to look back and be like, I wouldn't be here today if not for everything in my past.
Yeah.
Rocker said, whoever buys your house, why is this closet all green?
Yeah, because if they think I'm going to repaint it before I move out, they're wrong. I will replace the door, though, because there's a big hole in the bottom of the door for air circulation.
Oh, dear.
So, I put a big hole in the bottom of the door so that way I could get some, like, air pumping in
Mhm.
here because it's so hot all the time. But yeah, I'll replace the door. I ain't repainting the walls. They can do that themselves. It's a closet.
Yeah.
Who are they trying to impress?
Yep. Yep. True. Who knows? The next person moves there might want it for a streaming room. You don't know.
Right? They may just be like, I want to make the whole house this color.
Yeah. Mm.
Turns out they're like a videographer and their whole house
Mm.
becomes one giant
Mhm.
green screen. They can do whatever they want.
Yeah. And all of a sudden today they're in a safari. It's fine. It's fine. I'm in my kitchen, also a safari. It's good. Punches door, air circulation. There you go. Okay, so now it's.
To be fair, I
go
did
ahead.
it with a hammer. I did do it with a hammer. I claw peened that hole out of it. Originally I did that hole to put a fan in it. Like I wedged a fan in it,
Mhm.
not thinking about how physics work and the fact that if I put a fan in it blowing in, there has to be somewhere for the air to go out for it to actually circulate.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, crap. So I opened it up and I kind of put the fan on the outside of it so the air kind of blows in and has like a little bit of a spinning effect there.
Yeah. You can't tell me that wasn't at least a little bit stress relieving, though.
Oh yeah. Oh, 100%. Like I'm pretty sure at one point I was sitting there doing with a claw peen hammer, and then I was like, with the foot, just like one boot,
Yeah. All right, so it's time for the Disney magic moment, and I'm going to change this a little bit so that it's not like giving everyone crazy seizures, but I have this magic wand right here. And you're going to wave this magic wand and automatically eliminate one common opinion or misconception or theory surrounding mental illness, disabilities, talking about mental health. What is that theory, mental illness, a theory going to be? What are you eliminating with this beautiful magic wand?
I'm eliminating the common misconception that just because somebody suffers from a mental illness means that there's something wrong with them.
Yes.
People are wired differently. Humans are wired differently. That's why some of us are bigger, some of us are smaller, some are taller, some are shorter. The people are just differently. They're just built differently. And just because somebody's wired a little bit differently does not mean that they're crazy or that something's wrong with them. That right there is 100% the one I would get rid of, because that is what put us in this whole spot with the stigma to begin with, is that, I can't really talk about, why I sit in my house and cry at night, because if I do, they're going to lock me up in a quote unquote nut house. I hate that idea. And I don't use the word hate a lot. But that would be it. That would be the one, is just because you suffer from a mental illness does not mean you're crazy.
Yep, absolutely. And it doesn't mean that someone else isn't going through and suffering as well, even if they look perfect on the outside either.
Yep.
So that's a good one. Okay, so we're going to open it up to any remaining Q&A. And while we're waiting for those, I'll just ask you if there's anything as far as resources or sites or personal recommendations or something we didn't cover that you want to cover. Shout outs, organizations. I think we've put in most of them into the chat already, but anything you want while we got these remaining questions coming in.
I have two organizations that I would like to shout out. Obviously, one being Anime for Humanity, not just because I work with them, but because they have that healing section on their website that can redirect you to a more specific resource for you. But another one is the Brain and Behavior Research Foundation, because they actually take what they do with their funding is they fund studies. They provide funding to studies on the scientific aspects of mental health. So, what can we do to treat depression on a more medical level for people that have to go through that? One primary example of something that they've done is they actually provided the funding for a study that found out that nasally administered esketamine has been shown to actually treat treatment resistant depression. That certain forms of depression that do not get that level of alleviated symptoms, this nasally administered esketamine can, and they funded scientific studies behind this. And where things go from there is different, because it's like, well,
Right.
what's the pharmaceutical industry going to do? But they do some amazing stuff with different kinds of studies. But yeah, those are the two. But if I wanted to give a couple of people a shout out, I would just like to actually encompass like the members of the community that I've surrounded myself with from streaming, because they have been such a shining light, such a shining light in my life that have helped me through so many bad times. And I know I end up becoming a pain in the ass because whenever things start going bad, I have this bad problem of just like going off the deep end of God, everything's falling apart around me. And it's not a long lived thing, but I end up going through these problems. And it's like, they've stuck by me through this and tried to and helped me through them instead of just being like, dude, this guy's annoying. I don't need to be around him. So for those people that have done that, I can't thank them enough.
Absolutely. So if you guys haven't checked out either of those organizations, I put links to both of them in the chat, and as well as a link to Rev's Twitter again and his Twitch as well. And we do have a question from the community from Bite Mark, and that is, what is your favorite poem?
The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe. It was kind of like the first thing that it introduced me into that more kind of like macabre short horror story type of literature. And I do not have a good enough attention span to read full on books. So short stories that help. But The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe was like the first one I ever actually really heard that I was like, man, this is a wild story. Because I'm a big fan of like the dark and the macabre and stuff. Like I like H.P. Lovecraft's literature. I like Edgar Allan Poe's literature. And then I like kind of that aesthetic of like the even my hoodie, it's got like a skeleton fishing, smoking weed. It just says relax. Like I just like that kind of like macabre aesthetic. And Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven was kind of like the jumping off point for all of that.
Perfect. He had an answer. It's also a good answer. I approve. You got the approval right there. See, that's it. All right. Well,
that's a good one. I like it.
Yeah. If there's nothing else from the community, nothing else you want to say, I will just say again, thank you so much for being here with us today. Chat, give me just a few minutes to disconnect with our guest here, and I will be back playing something, maybe Minion Masters if Bite Mark wants to do pre-mades, because I had to get some pre-mades done. So there's that. But thank you again so much, and y'all give me just a second.
Absolutely.
That was Rev Sven sharing his journey with anxiety and depression, recorded back in 2020. His story hits on so many things that people dealing with mental health struggles face every day. One thing that really stood out to me was his honesty about the medication carousel. Being diagnosed with depression, then bipolar disorder, then anxiety, then intermittent explosive disorder. If you've been through the mental health system, you probably recognize this pattern. It's frustrating and exhausting to feel like a guinea pig while doctors try to figure out what's actually going on with your brain. Sven's point about being 100% honest with your healthcare providers is crucial. I can't stress this enough. They cannot help you if you are not telling them the truth about side effects, other substances you're using, or how you're actually feeling. And yes, that includes telling them if you smoke weed, even in states where it's not legal. They're not going to call the police. They need that information to treat you safely. His experience with falling asleep while driving really drives home how serious medication side effects can be. That could have been a tragedy, not just for him, but for other drivers on the road. If a medication is affecting your ability to function safely, that is an emergency conversation with your doctor, not something to tough out. I appreciated his transparency about weaning himself off medication without medical supervision. He was very clear that he doesn't recommend that approach, that it can be dangerous. If you're unhappy with your current treatment, please work with your healthcare team to make changes safely. There are always options, even if it takes time to find what works for you. The community aspect of his healing really resonated with me. Finding people who understand what you're going through makes such a difference. Whether that's through streaming, support groups, online communities, or just having that one friend who gets it, connection matters. Mental illness thrives in isolation, so building those relationships is part of the work. His point about toxic masculinity and mental health, especially in rural areas, is something we need to keep talking about. The pressure on men to tough it out is literally killing people. If you're listening to this and you're struggling, I want you to know that reaching out for help is not weakness, it's courage. One thing I want to emphasize from our conversation is that recovery isn't linear. Sven still has depressive episodes, he still struggles, but now he has the tools and support systems that help him get through them. That's what real progress looks like. Not the absence of symptoms, but having better ways to cope when they show up. If you're dealing with anxiety or depression right now, I hope hearing this story reminds you that you are not alone and that things can get better. It might not look the way you expect, and it probably won't happen as fast as you want, but healing is possible. A few quick reminders. If you're having thoughts of self-harm, please reach out for help immediately. Call the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. If you need mental health resources or a way to find out what number to call, you can Google it. You can also go to tacosfallapart.com. There are lots of resources and links for you there. If this episode helped you in any way, please take a moment to rate and review the podcast. Those reviews and comments really do help other people find us when they need to hear these conversations the most. Subscribe so you don't miss new episodes, and share this with someone who might benefit from hearing Sven's story. You can find me on social media. I'm MommaFoxFire everywhere. You can also Google Even Tacos Fall Apart and find me everywhere there. And connect with our community on Discord. Again, go to tacosfallapart.com. There's all the ways to find us there. We are building something special, a place where people can be real about their struggles and support each other through the hard stuff. Remember, even when everything feels like it's falling apart, you are still worthy of love, support, and healing. And just like tacos, sometimes the messiest things in life are still worth holding on to. Thanks for listening to Even Tacos Fall Apart. Take care of yourselves, and I'll talk to you next time.